little more.
Lighten up.
Man died. He goes to God. God, people
We were
don't
given
know.
the Ten Commandments.
Sent me here to ask you, is it true that we're the chosen people? Yes, it is true that you are the chosen people.
Can't hear.
Well, in that case, I have a request from the other people below. Would you mind choosing someone else for a change? Yeah, Margaret.
Yeah. So I mean, of course, there's happy times and there's sad times, and we can look at anything with happy eyes or sad eyes, and we get good sleep and we get good food, and we look with positivity, then our life only becomes better. So
Well, look what happened to the diaspora when the Jews left Palestine or whatever it was called at the time. I mean, a lot of countries wouldn't even let the Jews in. England was one of them. And look what happened in Spain.
so we're going to talk a lot about this today, and we're going to look at it from a little bit of a different angle. I'll start with this joke that I said Rosh Hashanah, not everyone was here. There was or maybe it was Yom Kippur. There's a rabbi, and he says it's at the end of Yom Kippur, and he's looking around at everyone. It's towards the end of the day. Everyone's on a very high spiritual plane. We've been spending the last 24 hours, 23 hours on contemplation about God and about our relationship with God and asking for forgiveness and offering forgiveness. And he looks around and he asks everyone in the room, are you all ready to forgive the people who have wronged you? And everyone puts up their hand, except for one little old lady in the back. And the rabbi says, Mrs. Goldstein, at 93 years old, and you're not willing to forgive those who have wronged you? Why not? She says, I don't have any enemies. Says, well then, please, would you come up and tell the crowd, how is it that you live to 93 years old with no enemies? And this little old lady teeters up the aisle and she looks straight at the crowd and she says, I outlived them all.
I knew you were going to say that. That was a given.
That's good. I like that.
That's my response when people say, oh, the Jews were kicked out of all the countries. Well, where are those countries today? And were the countries better off or worse off for doing that? So let's begin. In this week's Torah portion, we learn how Jacob, at the end of last week's Torah portion, Jacob had to run away. Sorry?
Empires rise, empires fall. Jews go on and on.
That's it.
Just before World War II, when, Jews were being expelled from Germany, Philippines, right? It was a territory, it was a self-governing territory of the United States at that time.
Okay.
Bring the Jews here. We'd love to have them. They're educated, they're industrious, they're pious. They would be a boon. We'd love to have them. I mean, it'd be crazy not to want them. And well, China was different, but China was all a big mess. But the State Department actually had veto power over the president of the Philippines. And they said no.
Yeah. So,
and to this day, Philippines is actually one of Israel's strongest allies.
Good to know.
Yeah, they get along great. Philippines love it. I don't know about that. They do. I do know about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they frequently vote in General Assembly at the majority anti-Israel resolutions as they come up over and over.
I don't know if that's true.
You're well look it up. They do.
We'll find out. The bottom line is that we're going to talk today about the first Jew who had to run away because of to run away for his life. And that was Jacob. Jacob steals the blessings. I will talk more about that a different time. But Jacob gets the blessings that were intended for him. And his older brother Esau gets very angry. And Jacob's mother says, run away till your brother calms down. And sends her son, Jacob, off to her brother Laban's house to go and spend some time there. He comes there, and let's see what happens when he gets there. He finds his cousin, or whatever, his uncle, and his cousin Rachel. He finds his uncle, and his uncle says, "Oh, come, stay here. Of course, we're brethren." And then he ends up making him work, and Jacob works, and after a long time of working, his father-in-law, his uncle, soon-to-be father-in-law, says to him, "You've been working so long. Tell me, what are your wages?" And Jacob says, "I will work for you 7 years if you give me your daughter Rachel in marriage." And of course, Laban agrees, and then gives him Leah in marriage. So he works another 7 years. He marries Rachel. He works another 7 years, and then at a certain point, he was ready to go. Source number 1, Chaim, would you like to read for us?
Rachel, Joseph. Jacob said to Laban, send me on my way, and I will go to my own place and to my homeland. Give me my wives and my children for whom I work for you, and I will go. For you know my work that I did for you. Laban said to him, if I have found favor in your eyes, I have divined that God has blessed me because of you.
So those are the verses. And would you like to continue with Rashi's commentary?
I have divined. He was a diviner. Laban was saying, I have discovered by my art of divination that through you a blessing has come to me. When you first came here, I had no sons, for it is said, and behold, Rachel, his daughter, is coming with the flock. Is it possible, if he had sons, that he would have let his daughter go among the shepherds? Now, however, he had sons, as it is said, and he heard the words of Laban's sons.
Okay. So Laban is saying that, first of all, I know that God blessed me because God blessed me that I will have sons instead of just daughters. Zalman, would you like to read source number 2 from the Zohar?
On Jacob's account, Laban profited an additional 100 extra animals, 100 extra goats, and 100 extra sheep. Rabbi Abba says 1,000 extra animals, 1,000 goats, and 1,000 sheep were brought by Jacob each month. This is the implication of the verse. For the little that you had before me has increased the multitude, and the Lord blessed you upon my arrival. Divine blessing is never less than 1,000 of each variety, and everything that divine blessing rests is not less than 1,000. When Jacob left, Laban had become very wealthy.
Okay. So we have 2 opinions. One opinion in the Zohar is that he had 100 extra sheep and 100 extra goats every month. The other opinion is 1,000 extra sheep and 1,000 extra goats every month. So the bottom line is that Laban realized that his blessing came on account of the Jew.
Laban was Jewish?
No, it wasn't Jewish. It was idol worship.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, the Rebbe says, regarding the blessing that Laban received on Jacob's account, there are 2 views. One says that the blessing gave him an extra 100, and another says the extra 1,000. Now, I'm going to pause here and just say, the next part is going to be a little bit Kabbalistic and esoteric. And if it's above your head, don't get too worried, because it's complicated a little bit. You ready?
So is Leah and Rachel, do they convert to,
Yes, they converted. The conversion process before the giving of the Torah was much more simple than it is after, because the Jews weren't formally commanded any commandments. So the one, the two things really that people did, formally, I should say. Informally, we've learned many times that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob all fulfilled all the commandments. Formally, it was an acceptance of the one God, monotheism, and then, of
Very
course,
least
for
they
the
gave up the
descendants of
concept.
Abraham to have the circumcision. So Rachel, Rebecca, Sarah, they all, I guess we'll call, quote unquote, converted. And at the time of the giving of the Torah, all the Jews converted.
So how was Judaism different from, there was another monotheistic religion at the time. I don't remember the name of it.
Because we have 613 mitzvahs now.
Zoroaster.
No, before that,
So-
before that.
Right. So what we discussed last time is that it's possible that they were students in the same academy where Abraham was learning, or perhaps they were students of Abraham himself, and they continued that tradition but did not become the chosen people.
Who is that? Who is that referring to?
Referring Abraham
No,
or
They
the
did-
academy,
the people you said did not
the
become.
people that
Jews.
you were talking about,
No, Zoroaster. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. They were all monotheistic, but they didn't become Jews. They were.
Hmm.
I mean, they continued with whatever was around before the Jewish people received the Torah,
Right.
and in their viewpoint and theology, and the
Right.
Jewish people, we got the Torah, and that's what differentiates us. In other words, in our belief system of monotheism, and I guess in theory, the Muslims also believe in one God. When comes to Christianity, I don't know. I think it's confusing. Some do, some don't.
yeah, this idea of the Trinity.
Yeah, 3 is 1, and yeah, the Christianity is.
They say
It's different. It
they
is.
say they're
You
monotheistic, but then they
they're. You think this is esoteric? Christianity with their 3 equals 1 is really.
What was it? This guy is there's some priest is trying to proselytize this simple Jewish guy, and the priest says to him, he says, I don't know if I should say this joke. Okay, I'm gonna say it. The priest says you have to believe that Jesus is the Son of God. He says, how is it possible, the Son of God? He says, because the Virgin Mary, she wasn't married, and she gave birth to him, and in the barn, no one else was there, and he's the Son of God. So the Jew says, aha. So he was born in a barn from a young girl, and there was no father, and that's what happened. He says, yes, that's what happened. He said, well, we would call a bastard, you call God.
Well, it depends if there are certain Christians that dominate. Do not believe that that's just a prophet or wise leader.
Right, so that's what I was saying. Christianity, I don't know, because I think there are different sects.
Yeah.
Some people believe
Yeah.
differently. Some people believe
You know,
otherwise.
I know they're common Christian, but yeah, it depends. Not that the Catholic Church, they believe that it's, I guess the evangelicals, they believe it. But then there's like, there's other projects that do not believe
the divinity.
Right. Anyways, back to discussing Judaism. In page number 2, my father explains in his notes on the Zohar. So the Rebbe's father, when he was exiled to Kostroma for the crime of not bending to the Russian government, when they were asking him to do things against Judaism, and he said no, he ended up in Kazakhstan, in Almaty, and over there with horrible living conditions. And his wife, the Rebbe's mother, went out into the fields, collected berries, boiled them to make ink for her husband, and he would write very small in the margins of the little few books that he had, he wrote notes. So one of the things he had with him was a book of the Zohar. Excuse me. And so we have notes from the Rebbe's father. He was a genius of a man. And he has a very specific style. So my father explains in his notes on the Zohar that both views are true. In other words, that you don't have to go with either one opinion or the other, whether it was 100 or 1,000. Not only in the sense that the two differing opinions can both express divine truth, but that his position is literally true. He explains that the view that the increase was 100 of each type reflects the blessing that comes from the quality of Bina, which is usually translated as understanding. While the view of Rabbi Abba that it was 1,000 reflects that the blessing comes from the quality of Chachma, which is translated as wisdom. As has been noted several times, my father does not usually explain how this applies to a personal divine service, leaving that for us to ascertain. Okay. So,
Well, the obvious question there is, what is the difference between understanding and wisdom?
we're going to get there in a second. We're going to explain all of that. And also, we need to understand that, yes, from the way our bodies are, or our psyche is, we can learn about God, but we have to remember that when it comes to God, we have to be able to, there's a skill which we learn with age and maturity to strip concepts from their materialistic definitions and explanations. So we're going to use words which are portraying and defining things in a certain way, but of course, God doesn't have understanding the way we have understanding, and God doesn't have feelings the way we have feelings. And when we speak about God, this is something that a question that you've asked a few times. When we speak about understanding, knowledge, attributes of God, we're using words which we can begin to understand, and the more we can unpack them, and the more we can strip our materialistic view of them, the more we're going to understand the way it is by God. With that introduction, what is the difference between wisdom and understanding? So, according to Hasidic philosophy, there are three stages in human intellect: wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. First comes wisdom. After wisdom comes understanding. After understanding comes knowledge. What is wisdom? The first point. When you have a problem that you've been working on for a long time, and then all of a sudden there's that flash of inspiration, you got the answer. Ever happened to you?
Yeah, sure.
Many times. And all of a sudden, before you start thinking it through and fleshing it out, the phone rings, someone knocks on your door, you get distracted, and kaboom, it's gone. Or today, what happens with me sometimes is I pull out my phone to start writing down the idea, and a notification pops up on my screen, a message from someone, and that's it. Gone. That flash of inspiration sometimes is correlated, but we'll get to the analogy soon. After that, what happens if you're not distracted? What happens is you start unpacking that idea with its breadth and its length and all the implications of it, until you have a full grasp of the solution or the concept which you are delving into. And then finally comes the third part, which doesn't always happen, but hopefully it does, which is knowledge. And knowledge is the application of that understanding. For example, there are doctors who do lung transplants for people who have smokers' lungs. And a doctor will do a transplant or surgery, emergency surgery on someone who's about to die because their lungs are full of smoke. And it's a very stressful surgery and things are going wrong. And the patient almost died on the table. Finally, it was successful. And the doctor goes outside and to calm himself down, puffs a
Right.
cigarette. You just saw what smoking does to you. So he has the wisdom, he has the understanding, but there's a disconnect between what he knows and what he does.
I have to disagree. I think so. First, to use your example of a doctor doing surgery, first he has the knowledge of how to do it, the mechanics. This is it. But then something unexpected happens, and which may not have been covered in the textbook, but because he's done it many, many times, he can extrapolate what he knows to this new situation and deal with it then. That's wisdom that comes with experience.
So what we're arguing about here is the translations, and I'm with you on this. This is the way it's been translated, and I'm not I don't have the greatest command of the English language. I'm not a poet, but in the Hebrew, the words are chachma, bina, and das. Das is connection. In fact, the probably it's translated like that as well in the English. When Adam and Eve were together, were intimate, the verse says, Vayeda Adam es Chava Ishtoi. And Adam knew his wife, referring to the act of intimacy. So that's connection.
Where does Sachel fit in there?
Unfortunately, it doesn't.
Sachel?
Seichel.
Seichel.
Common
Seichel's
sense. Good.
good.
Oh,
It is for common
So, but
Which Voltaire said is either common or sensible.
yes. So we have these three stages, and so when talking about the first two, Chachma and Bina, let's just use the Hebrew words. Chachma and Bina. Chachma is this flash of inspiration. Bina is the unpacking of it. An analogy is often given of a child. You have the drop of sperm that comes from the father, which contains in it the entire child. Everything that the child needs is there. But left on its own, it will rot and disintegrate. There's nothing of substance there. Put that into a womb, let it fertilize an egg, and then for 9 months, the baby is growing and developing inside the mother's womb, and then you have a human child. Miracle. So that's the way it is with our brain. We have that first drop of inspiration, which gets unpacked and turns into a full idea. Which is greater, that initial flash of inspiration or that fully formed concept?
Well, greater is a fully formed concept, but it's all necessary.
They're both necessary, and Jones says the fully formed concept is greater.
I mean, greater than
Because you could use it.
Greater in how? Very good. Okay, so Joan, can I put some words into your mouth and you'll tell me if I'm understanding you correctly? Unpacking this, I should say, correct. Joan is saying that the fully formed idea is greater because it is more useful. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Does anybody have an argument to say that that initial flash of inspiration is greater?
They're both great.
Well, you can say that the flash of inspiration was useful in the application. I mean, really, two stuff. What's greater, the heads or tails? Little coin.
Very good. Same question. What's greater? The CEO who is all over the place coming up with great ideas, but he can't execute anything, or oh no, that's not I guess he would be the owner. The chief executive officer probably has to be able to execute. Who's greater? The one who comes, the artistic one who comes up with all the ideas, all this guy who's flying high, has these crazy business ideas, but can't bring anything to actuality, or the guy who listens to his ideas, unpacks them, creates structure for them, delegates which parts of it to do for which person, and ends up with a fully functioning business that's bringing in money. Without one, you don't have the other.
There was the problem.
Right.
of the Big Bang,
The Big Bang Theory, okay?
not a group of science, brilliant science. One is a brilliant theoretical physicist, and another one is here talking about, which is greater, the theory, person who comes up with the theory, or the person or the engineer who puts the theory into practical use.
Mm-hmm. You know what they say? In theory, there's no difference between theory and practice, but in practice, there is. But that's a great example. Who's better, the one who comes up with the theory or the one who implements them?
Edison used to say,
Both
And
necessary.
I think I don't think either one is
You need
greater.
both.
You need both.
Edison used to say,
The
what?
engineer needs the theory, and without the engineer, the theory is just mental gymnastics.
True.
Edison used to say success is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration.
Perspiration. Yeah. Yeah. And you need both. I mean, it's similar, but it's not perfectly the same. But let me ask you like this: Rabbi Mendel Futterfass was in the gulags for many, many years, and I think his wife was pregnant when they took him away. She gave birth to a son, or maybe his son was just born. When the son became 3 years old and got his first haircut, they sent him a small lock of hair in the mail. So let me ask you this: what would have been greater, a picture of his child, or this lock of hair? What's the difference between the two? So from a picture, he would have understood what his son looks like. Not only could he see the facial features and the size and stature and structure of his child, you could also see a lot of emotion through a picture. You can see if he's content or if he's sad, if he's angry, if he's depressed, if he's is with his back straight or all hunched over. There's a lot you can see from a picture, but it's not him. From this lock of hair, he doesn't know much about the child. But this is his child. It's a part of him. So back to our conversation about wisdom and understand what Chachma and Bina. The Chachma comes from a very deep part of you, the part of your soul which is which knows all and which is connected to the vast amount of wisdom that we often don't tap into. The only time we tap into that reservoir is when we really focus hard and we try, and with much perspiration can we get in touch with that, and a flash of inspiration can reverberate through our bodies, and then giving us the capacity to turn that into something useful. So the Chachma, that flash of inspiration, comes from a deeper part in you, but it's not as useful. The Bina is not as you. It's not as close to your soul. But it's much more user-friendly. Much easier to tap into. So, what he says is that if it's coming from Chachma, this greater part of Hashem, so then it gets 1,000. I'm pretty sure this is what he's saying. He'll unpack it soon. So that's where the 1,000 comes from. The 100 is coming from Bina, which is later, or maybe he's going to say the other way around. We'll see soon. I don't remember exactly. Okay, bottom of page number 2, I think. This requires clarification. What is the practical message here for a person's divine service, both from the general idea that Laban received additional blessings because of Jacob, and from the two views about whether blessing stems from quality of understanding or from the quality of wisdom. Okay, section B, page number 3. Seek the welfare of the city, Jews bring blessing to the country. The added blessing that came to Laban because of Jacob expresses the general principle of seeking the welfare of the governing power. As the verse states, seek the welfare of the city and pray on its behalf, for in its peace you will have peace. Jeremiah, who foretold the impending destruction of the Holy Temple for 40 years, wrote a letter to the Jews exiled to Babylon and guided them to remain there and to pray for the welfare of the land. He knew that God would not be returning them to Jerusalem soon. It would be 70 years until that would happen. Joan, do you have the PDF?
Did you skip something?
No, I was just giving a preface for source number 3. Do you have? Oh wait, I'm sorry.
Yes,
It looks like
okay.
Susie got knocked off. Susie, are you back here?
Yeah. Yeah, my
No,
my
she's
phone
not
went out.
back there.
Yes, I am. My phone went out. The battery.
Got it. Okay,
No, she's in South Carolina. Yeah,
great.
she'll.
Okay, so
I've got source 3.
Joan, would you like to read for us source number 3
Oh, sure.
from
So
Jeremiah?
says God, God of Israel, to all the exiles whom I have exiled from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and dwell in them, and plant gardens and eat their produce. Take wives and beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to men, and they shall bear sons and daughters. Multiply there and do not be diminished. Seek the peace of the city where I have exiled you, and pray for it to God, for in its peace you shall have peace.
Thank you. Continues the Rebbe on page number 4. When the Jewish people are in exile in a foreign land, as Jacob was in Laban's home, they bring increased divine blessing to that country. This is expressed in the concept of seek the welfare of the city and pray on its behalf, which materialized in the added blessing that Laban received because of Jacob. There are two views regarding how this blessing is drawn down. 1, a blessing that comes through the quality of Bina. A blessing that follows the natural order. This corresponds to the view that the increase was 100. 2 is a blessing that comes through the quality of Chachma, a blessing that surpasses the natural order. This corresponds to the view that the increase was 1,000. In the same way, there are two ways for which Jewish people can bring blessing to the nations among whom they live in exile. A blessing following the natural order and a blessing that surpasses the natural order. The conclusion is that the nations can also receive blessings beyond the natural order. An example of this is in Jacob's blessing to Pharaoh that the Nile should rise toward him. We're going to skip this for now in the interest of time, but Jacob blessed Pharaoh that even after Jacob's passing, whenever Pharaoh will walk to the Nile River, the waters of the river will rise to him, and that is how the drought ended in Egypt, and also how Pharaoh decided to crown himself as God. So we see from there that Pharaoh was blessed with a supernatural blessing. Bottom of page number 5. This is something beyond the natural order, because the nature of water is to flow from a higher place to a lower one, and its rising towards Pharaoh runs contrary to that nature. Similarly, our sages relate many accounts that show that the nations can also receive blessing in ways that transcend nature. Source number 5. Susie, did you get the email this week?
No, I didn't get it.
No? Okay. Baruch, would you like to read for us source number 5?
We see a pattern. Wherever the righteous go, blessing follows them. Yitzchak went to Gerar, blessing came to Gerar, as the verse says, Yitzchak planted in the land. Jacob went to Laban.
So, 1 second. At that time, there was a famine in the land, but because Isaac was there, he planted, and things grew, and not only for him, but for everyone else as well.
What is Gerar?
Gerar is the name of a area. I don't remember where it is. I think it's towards the south of Israel.
Jacob went to Laban, blessing went with him, as the verse says, I have divined that God has blessed me because of you. Joseph descended to Potiphar's home, blessing came with him. As the verse says, God blessed the Egyptian's household on the account of Joseph.
Thank you. Keep on going. Jacob descended.
Jacob descended to Egypt, blessing accompanied him. As the verse says, Jacob then blessed Pharaoh. What was the blessing? He prevented the hunger years. As the verse says, now have no fear. I will feed you and your young. And the verse says, I fed you there. Just like the earlier verse is referring to hunger, so is the later verse.
Thank you. So this is how very holy and special people were able to bring blessing to their surroundings. Thank you. But what about us simple folk? So we have over here very interesting source number 6 and source number 7, or maybe they're both in source number 6. Source number 6 and source number 7. You can take this page and read it later. But what you see over here is source number 6 is from the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, a prayer to be said on behalf of the Russian government. And we have actually in the handwritten thing, it says the guy's name was Pavel Petrovich. That was the name of the, I guess, king of that time, Tsar. And in source number 7, this was a prayer by the previous Chabad Rebbe, Rabbi Schneerson of Lubavitch, and he put it around that it should be recited in all Jewish synagogues in the United States during the upcoming high holiday festivals before the Musaf service, both on Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur. This was during World War II, at a time when the United States needed a lot of help. And in gratitude to the United States, now they were not a haven for the Jews in the way that they could have been, but they were helping, and they were also helping with the war effort. And this was a prayer. You can read that afterwards. So, in simple terms, there are times when the nations receive a blessing in a natural manner, and there are times when they receive them in a supernatural. What we see is that when the Jewish people were expelled, very often that caused significant economic and social issues in the countries that they were taken away from. Like we have with Queen Isabella, right? So in 1492, the Jews were expelled from the Spanish Inquisition, and the people who gained the most from the Spanish Inquisition were the places who accept the Jews to come into their land. The Ottoman Empire was ruled by Sultan Bayezid II. And, sorry? Bayezid? I don't know how you pronounce his name. What?
The Byzantine Empire.
I don't know. The Ottoman Empire.
No, the Byzantine were not spelled. Yeah, the
Ottoman Empire.
Ottoman Empire.
And so in the beginning of his rule, he was not very friendly to the Jews because of his Muslim beliefs, but later on in life, he became much more friendly with the Jewish people. And then when they were expelled from Spain, he invited them and encouraged them, similar to what you were saying the Philippines wanted to do in World War II. And it goes without saying that their economy thrived.
The Muslim North Africa was very tolerant, very welcoming, a lot of Jewish scholarship going on.
The Middle Ages is
Right around 1,000.
right. Yeah, we have a lot of Jewish thought from there.
Yeah,
Maimonides,
yeah.
a lot of Jewish thought.
And there was a lot.
Spain also even.
But after, you know.
And then later, yeah. Yup. Page number 10, superpower.
Was a more recent Germany. All those Jewish scientists, all those Nobel Prize winning German physicists were kicked out of Germany and they came to America and they built the atomic bomb.
Right.
And there was in Germany, a couple of top physicists weren't Jewish. Heisenberg may or may not have been working for the Nazis, but Hitler was said to have been kind of dismissive of the idea of an atomic bomb, which he called, quote, Jewish physics.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, this idea that when the Jewish people live in a foreign country, that country receives additional blessing is clearly observed. Throughout the generations, it has been the case that the country in which the majority of the Jewish people lived became a dominant world power. For example, the kingdoms of Nebuchadnezzar and Ahasuerus, who both ruled the world, and other such cases. In our own times as well, the greatest world powers are the very countries that have the largest Jewish populations. It is clear that when the majority of the Jewish people lived in Russia, it cast fear over the entire world, including the United States, which at that time was still at the beginning of its development. After the Second World War, when many Jews settled in the United States, and especially after the wellsprings of Hasidus reached America with the arrival of the previous Rebbe, the leader of the generation, the United States became the greatest world power, a superpower to the point that it can confront and instill fear in all other nations, including Russia. The only problem is that this strength is not fully utilized. On another occasion, the Rebbe elaborated further on this, page number 11. The reason why Russia once held such a dominant power is that the majority of the Jewish people lived there, both in the numerical sense and even more importantly, in terms of quality. The terms of quality are outstanding spiritual leaders and transformational Jewish events. It was there that the Baal Shem Tov was born and where the dissemination of the teachings of Hasidus took place, including the watershed events of the 10th and 19th of Kislev, which are coming up. This is why the government of that land rose to world dominance. As the Medrash states, when the Jewish people are sent to a particular land by divine will for whatever reason, then, for the sake of the honor of the Jewish people, the government of that land becomes powerful to the point that it rules over the entire world. Source number 8, we have Pharaoh ruled from one end of the world to the other, and his authority is extended from one end of the world to the other, for the glory of Israel. There is no nation under which Israel was subjugated that did not rule from one end of the world to the other, for the glory of Israel.
I think it's a little, to claim that Jews are responsible for America's dominance in the world seems a little out there. Certainly there was Jews contributed, but
He's not saying that the Jewish people are in the military and therefore they're the strongest. He's saying exactly the opposite.
Not even, no, I'm just even talking about the fact, talking about it general.
Yeah, that's
There
what he's
are
saying.
a few other things.
Because the Jewish people were here is why America was blessed by God to have the power that it has. In other words, we all will agree that America's power is not because of America, but because of God, because we believe that everything that happens and everywhere that it happens is divinely orchestrated.
We could also say that America is a huge continent protected by vast oceans with up until recently unlimited natural resources. There is all that.
And who put the resources in the country?
Okay.
And why did America, if that's the case, why did America not become a huge superpower until now? It was barely even on the map.
Let's talk about oversized influence. For people that represent 2/100 of 1% of the world's population, we received, or we've been awarded 1/3 of all the Nobel Prizes in science and every other.
Let's not get too carried away.
Well, that's a fact.
I know it's a fact. I'm not
Right.
saying that.
He's saying that how are we extrapolating from this
I'm not
that
saying
the
that.
reason why America is successful is because of the Jews.
Successful. I'm just saying let's not take it to.
No, we don't do everything, of course not.
There
But
are
we're-
other,
we're
there are
reading
other
here from the
reasons
Medrash.
America,
Sure,
there
sure.
are other reasons America became. great
But the
superpower.
reason for those reasons is because God wanted them to.
Oh.
And why did God want them to? For the glory of the Jews. Bottom of page 11, this also explains the change in material situation of the United States, which has recently become an incredibly powerful nation. After the period in which most of the Jewish people lived in Russia came to an end, God transferred the bulk of the Jewish people to the United States. The divine presence moved along with the Jewish people, and most of them settled in the United States. Ideally, God should have brought the entire Jewish people to our holy land, the land constantly under God's watch, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. This is especially true since all the predetermined times for redemption have already passed. Nevertheless, God arranged matters differently. We can't measure and declare that one group of Jews constitutes the main body of the people, while the other is not. All are beloved, all are chosen, all are mighty, and all are holy. Still, we can see that the largest number of Jews, the majority in the literal sense, now lives in the United States. This fact is itself an indicator that the United States also holds the majority in substance, for among the people described as a holy nation, quality and quantity are bound together. Key points. Laban admits that his wealth was blessed and increased because of Jacob's presence with him. The Zohar presents two opinions as to whether the increase was of 100 or 1,000 heads of sheep each month. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak explains 100 represents a blessing originating from the sphere of Bina, and therefore the blessing is limited. 1,000 represents a blessing from Chachma, which is above the natural world, and therefore its effect is far greater. From this, we learn that there are two ways in which the Jewish people can influence their surroundings: through natural blessings, through supernatural blessings. Indeed, Jews contribute in both ways. We pray for the welfare of the government, bringing supernatural blessing, and we also naturally strengthen the economy of the country. So from the natural order of things, our commerce is and things like that help strengthen the economy. But that because we live here, the country becomes greater is on the supernatural level.
Because Jewish women like to shop.
Because what? Because Jewish women like to shop. That's the natural order
I
of it.
think all women shop.
And the supernatural reason of it is because Jewish women light Shabbat candles.
Yeah.
For this reason, every place where the majority of the people, both in number and in quality, was concentrated became a global power thanks to the blessing the Jewish people bring to their environment. This occurred in empires that ruled over Jewish people at different times: Babylon, Persia, Russia, and the United States. I mean, you can look in history and you'll see that wherever the Jews were, that's where the power was. And I would love to be proven wrong. I wouldn't love to be proven wrong, but I'd be curious to be proven wrong. Takeaway.
Yeah.
What about China?
How many Jews are there in China?
How many?
Not many. Maybe soon there will be.
Well, there was one
Okay,
time,
maybe
but
soon
they're
there
all
will
gone
be.
now. At one time there was.
Yeah.
But they're all gone now.
A lot of Jewish money in China and manufacturing. Takeaway. The idea that we have learned should give us a true sense of pride. The fact that we live among the nations of the world is not a reason to stoop or to try to resemble our non-Jewish neighbors. On the contrary, precisely when we fulfill our roles as Jews and live lives of Torah and mitzvahs without shame, we bring abundance and blessing to the place and the environment in which we live. Yeshikach, we're about to do the video. Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Susie. Shabbat Shalom and happy Thanksgiving.
Shabbat Shalom. Yes, good Thanksgiving to you too. Rabbi, are you going to be in your office till what time?
Until what time? That's a good question. I have some things I need to do, but if there's a time that you want me to be here, I can definitely be here.
Well, I just wanted to stop by with a check at some point.
Oh, you tell me when and I will be here.
Okay, I'll have to figure it out because I don't drive. I'll have to see.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Take care. Thank you and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone.